Hello and welcome to the Track Racer GT series live from Phillip Island, this round 9 of season 13. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Daniel Lee. Scott Newton operating the cameras, bringing you this action on Apex Racing TV. Hopefully you are having a good evening at the moment. We have got a 90-minute race coming up for you tonight. 2 pit stops mandatory, one of which you got to take tyres. And Daniel, it is an opportunity for the championship to really continue. Ross Rizzo continues to extend his lead, and we're getting to this second half of the championship where drivers are going to have to start catching back up to him. Probably Edwards the most likely to do that, but someone's surely got to take him off his perch tonight, and this Phillip Island circuit might be a decent chance for that.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, and to everyone tuning in. Great to have you back again. Look, it's going to be an interesting one. Trak Esports have certainly not had it all their own way over the course of the championship. They have been fortunate, however, to take every round so far. That being said, we're in for a pretty interesting tonight. So 90 minutes enduro around Phillip Island here. Some big swings in balance of performance, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. But surprisingly, we've got a couple of different guys up towards the pointy end as warm-ups just about to conclude here.
Yeah, of course, the Jazz have already completed their qualifying session. We've got a couple of splits tonight, and so the top drivers get into this split. Should be about 36 of them, about 36 drivers in this top split, and then 36 went into second split. So a very competitive field as always. So these are very competitive drivers, all running the same setup. And that is kind of the points of this Track Racer GT series. Fixed setup, and with those weight changes, we should see a very even grid. You were talking me through the weight changes earlier on, Daniel, and I was quite shocked about the extent of the balance of performance for this round. We've seen very little movement on that, just a 5 kilos here, 5 kilos there so far this season, and then a big change to the Porsche for this round of the championship.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest swing we've seen so far in balance of performance. The Porsche has been lumped with a hefty 40 kilos around Phillip Island, which isn't going to be an easy feat for it. That being said, they're still looking very competitive in the early times. And Tim Feedman currently leading the way in that Porsche, currently sitting 4th outright as far as lap pace is concerned. So not too far behind. But for other cars concerned, the BMW, no change for that car. Obviously, we want to see the BMWs coming back up to the forefront. The Ford GT will have 20 kilos put against it. The Ferrari 15 alongside the Corvette. So should be some interesting changes. It's going to be interesting to see how the tyres go. Obviously 90 minutes tonight, we're going to have one mandatory tyre change for all these guys to contend with, but the additional weight that the guys are going to find in the Porsche, for instance, really going to be interesting to see what they want to do. Take the early pit stop, try and run the 40 minutes and look at splitting the race up into 2 parts before they take those tyre changes.
I commentated, the only time I commentated on GTEs around this track was the Apex Racing League GT Championship, probably about 5 months ago, and the troubles that the Jazz had on tyres was unreal. We had most drivers having a spin during the 40-minute race, and I don't think the conditions were particularly harsh either. I think it was late afternoon weather, probably only mid-20s, low 20s track temperature, and yet drivers were really struggling out there. So that's a good point. We may well see troubles for some of the guys. We've got a full formation lap. I've started to warm to the full formation lap myself, I must say. It gives us a little bit more time to talk about everything, and we can take our time going through the grid. It's Ross Rizzo on pole position again, championship leader, and he got his first pole of the season at Interlagos, I believe, in the last round, and he's done it again. If that was his one weakness, he certainly addressed it. Michael Healy, his teammate, up alongside him on the front row of the grid. Then it's Craig Edwards, biggest challenger to Rizzo in the championship. Nathan Huppert's, who's been in a better run of form recently, got a podium back at Interlagos, got second place, I believe, at Interlagos. He lines up in 4th. Then it's the strong qualifiers, as always, of Martin Crisp and Simon Nicholson for XRC Racing, top of the amateur drivers. Trent Thomas lines up in 7th. Then it's Timothy Feeban, Jeremy Clark, top of the pros, and Scott Sislowski rounding out the top 10, making it a good qualifying for Trak Esports. Then behind them is Jason Benz, Tom Huggan, Jordan Pruden, Michael Whiting, Steve Janssen, Ben Dow, Brady McHugh, Adam Gardner, John Puce is top of the rookie drivers. Behind him is Christopher Weitzel. Then it's Jesse Butler, Aaron Specchio, Bradley Sanders, Hayden Smith, Christopher Hughes, Martin Silvassi, Chris Pellett, Brett Hender, Paul Warwick, Miles Burgess, Mitchell Bales, Dale Braid, Max Hevitt, Logan Barnett, Kobe Laszlo, and Nicholas Garoich, running out this 37-car field in the end. And we might even see Alexander Bird and Jason Cotswell take the track later on in case we need a safety car. Because I think incidents will be quite common. It's always difficult to predict this, Daniel. I don't think I'm particularly good at predicting how many safety cars we'll get usually, although AOSC we've made some good calls, but that's an element of luck as well, whereas this, we don't have any random safety cars. But of course, a big runoff around most of the corners around this place. I guess a safety car is quite unlikely, but then of course such a narrow circuit this, I guess incidents are quite potential as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we have one or two safety cars potentially come out through the race tonight. Probably one of the big spots that's going to cause a lot of issue is right where the guys are here at the moment, down into turn 4 at Honda Hairpin. Everyone's going to be firing through really quick, trying to get those cars pulled up, rotated through the corners. And we've already seen over the years within the V8 Supercar Series, lots of big incidents have occurred down here and potential for another one to happen tonight. The other big one's going to be as the guys work their way through the back, and as we see the pace car going around through here, through the Hayshed section, turn 6, 7, 8, and up over Lukey Heights into 9. Plenty of too wide action, and we've seen it before. The guys will like to get up alongside each other, and that's another good opportunity, potential opportunity where we will see another safety car as well. Fingers crossed we don't, but we got out of it scot-free last week into Lagos, but there is every chance for it this week.
Mitchell Bale's not taking the start seemingly in his Corvette, but apart from that we have got 36 cars out on circuit. The Porsche pace car will soon come into the pits. We've seen issues coming into the pits. Watch out for that later on in the race. 2 pit stops, one needs to take tyres, and we've got 2 Trak Esports guys on the front row of the grid. This is some big points available for this 3rd Enduro of the season. Who is going to take the spoils at Phillip Islands? Ross Rizzo controlling the order, and we are away racing in the Track Racer GT Series. The 2 Corvettes of Edwards and Huffers alongside one another going down into turn 1 as the field on the most part side by side into the pit straight. Rush through turns 1 and 2. The BMW just getting a little bit shoved out there. That was Nicholson just under pressure. Trent Thomas, so just under pressure from behind. He's managed to hold firm though as a bit of smoke just rises up, and that's why Jason Bent's heading off the track. He had a good qualifying defence, I believe started in 11th position, but that has completely been ruined now. Still Thomas under pressure, a little bit further back. He's having to pace car right in the middle of the circuit just to try to defend. And Clark now tries to take advantage of this. Sasaki with a good start manages to hold Clark off. He might actually lose another position now to apologies. Clark did get ahead of Sasaki then. That's Bevan, Huggan, Cruden and Janssen just behind. But that's the perfect start for Trak Esports. I don't know if there was maybe some communication on the radio there, Daniel, between the 2 of them for when to put their foot down, but that was a comfortable getaway to escape the grasp of the couple of cars behind.
Yeah, it was a really good getaway from everyone there, and we'll see that one little issue there for Benz, but we'll get that car back underway and going. And see a little bit of side-to-side contact between Clark and Soslowski, which did manage to sort itself out as the guys worked their way through Honda. But everyone else has fallen into pretty single file now, and they're going to be able to utilise the drafters. We see a good little move here for McHugh on Janssen. He might have an opportunity down into turn 1, which is a really fast sweeper, and gets the nose of that car rounding outside and actually down through the inside there. Good move into 1. Let's see whether he can get it slowed down enough for the run into 2, and he looks like he's made that move quite comfortably. So all in all, everyone's settling away quite nicely. Looks like Mitch Bales has also got back out on circuit, so he's rejoined after starting from the pit lane as well. So everyone out on circuit.
Yes, it's good to see. Look how quick Healy is. The man who should have really won the last Enduro at Barber. I think got a bit of side by side as well further down. Thomas and Nicholson. Thomas just getting past Nicholson, I believe, for 6th place down at the hairpin. But just with the way that this circuit is designed, go side by side for much of the track. And that's what they're doing. Nicholson trying to stay alongside, but as though that's a losing battle. And it is Clark. Apologies, it is Thomas who's up into 6th place. Trak Esports now have 3 of their gyros up in the top 6 place, and Sislowski as well. Also just getting past Clark, who is heading down the order. It's not too bad for Clark. You can still, he's still pointing the right way. As jumping out is Phoeben. He may well get a penalty. We saw that under investigation. He collided with Bentz, I believe, down at turn 2. And usually if a driver is under investigation, hard into the wall, and that could be a safety car. We've got Prudent and Dowell as well. We've got the potential for a pilot, but we avoided the most of it, and it's Dowell who was the unfortunate party right there. And Prudent, who slid into the inside wall. That's another thing that we see when we go to this circuit. And I wonder if Prudent's going to be able to get back to the pits, because that is an entire lap he's going to have to survive.
Yeah, and that was a really hard link into the wall there for Prudence. So we'll see whether he's able to pull that car around. We've seen quite a few more guys go off the circuit. Here's a look from Ben's perspective. Long way down the order, you can see that car fire off hard into the wall. Bounces back into the circuit there, and unfortunately just went down, wrong place, wrong time, and he takes a hard shot into the wall. And now he will climb that car back around. He's already dropped down a long way through the order, however, down into 27th position. Jordan Prudence is right at the back of the pack, and it just looks like the back end just got away from him as he got up on the curb. These guys worked their way up onto that front straight.
Yeah, he tipped a fraction of his outside tyre onto the grass. That was enough to spin the car around, and that's a shame for Prudent. He was having one of his better races. Could have been in for some big points, of course, double points for these Enduros. He's going to come away with relatively little. The drivers do get a faster pair, might even get 2 faster pairs. I'll quickly check on that one. No, it's just the one faster pair that the drivers can use, but he will certainly be adopting that. No further action actually for the Hupperts incident, so or was that Hupperts? That was maybe a different incident, which was no further action, but so far no penalties being given for anyone. Prudent might even get a penalty for that, although I imagine the stewards would deem that he was out of control due to the damage on his car. Whitesall is off the track. I think we're about to come across him. Where is he? There he is in the background and getting back onto track. Also Nicholson. Nicholson's had a knock from one of the top places in the amateurs. He was second in the AMs just behind his teammate Martin Crisp. Probably favourite for that category. Usually Nicholson gets the edge on Crisp as the race goes on. He's down into 17th place now, is Nicholson. Apologies, the pro driver, obviously. But that is a big mistake from the Ford 708 car. Let's see how this happened. And I believe this was battling with Trent Thomas.
Yes, so Trent Thomas down, goes very defensive through the middle there, and Nicholson not able to get that car pulled up. Left just enough room to try and attempt the move, but very late on the brakes there. And it's a corner. It's going to be very tricky to get those moves done, especially as the guys swing out wide to try and go on the defensive. So we see Brad McHugh now off into the dirt and making a slow recovery back to the track there. But that's a lot of damage also on that car. Here's another look at how that came as they work their way through 11. See whether just not turning enough, gets a little bit of that outside curb again and hard into the wall, and he's going to have to do a big lap around here as well, given that that was the final second to last corner there where he found his way through.
Smith is off the track. Turn 1, you got some big runner areas here, but the drivers are big off-track areas now on this track. The drivers are certainly using it. Plenty of incidents so far. Barnett's another one. He's now off the track. 28. It's tricky to keep up with everything that's going on. There's Christopher Hughes. He's actually not the leader anymore in the amateur category. He is up 8 places, but Paul Warwick is up 14. 29th on the grid. Big effort there from Paul Warwick to lead the rookie class at this stage of the race, albeit a very early stage of the race. The field probably starting to get quite spread out already. Second set race, the top 13. Here is Warwick for Fishing Motorsports. He's got Simon Nicholson. He's a big fan of that XRC car. They've used the spec maps pretty nicely right there. That's kind of matte. That's a matte finish. Or not quite sure on the grey of that car. Looking very nice at the moment. However, he needs it to get a bit more speed. Overtaking is possible around this Phillip Island circuit with the speed that these drivers can take through the final corner. It's pretty much a slipstream area, so you can really generate a lot of speed from the final hairpin all the way down to that turn 1. But no chance there for Nicholson and his Warwick, who stays in that P15.
Yeah, this sort of fight's going to rage on for a fair while. Further up, we see Jeremy Clark and Steve Jansen still going at it. This battle's been thereabouts for quite a few laps now, and just behind Huggan and Michael Whiting starting to buy into this battle also. So nice little 4-car train here, and plenty of good talent between all of these guys. Steve Jansen's going to have his work cut out for him here, though, trying to keep these three behind, but looking pretty handy at the moment as they work their way up past the hay shed. And this should be a pretty good run up over Lukey Heights here, and just flowing that car nicely across to try and minimise the time loss. So Jeremy Clark going a little defensive too, just keeping that car of Tom Huggan behind. Interesting just watching the way these guys work their way through 11 and 12. No one really using the short shift, but very easy on the throttle application to not excite those rear tyres. And it's a good run from these guys. They've managed to gain a little bit of an advantage now over Huggan, but with the draft, what's he able to do into turn 1?
Yeah, that draft isn't helping him out too much. The BMW ought to be the fastest car down the straights as well, as far as we know. Back at, it was Mosport, it seems a real weapon down the straights, but it's not here so far. Trent Thomas are doing well up into 6th place, albeit is a decent way off the race leaders already. He's got Beeben and his own teammate Sislowski. Of course, Trak Esports running 4 of the 5 GTE cars. I believe all of them bar the Ferrari, which, despite being decently competitive, I believe the Ferrari may not have been when this series started. Many drivers choosing it. Braid is off the circuit, and he was 19th, was Dale Braid, and not anymore. He was up as well, over 10 places as well from his start. Not anymore, he's down to 24th. This is how it happened. It looks as though this is going to be an individual mistake, unless we've got a driver on our tail, seeing that he's taking that line. Doesn't seem like he did. And just such a narrow circuit, and that is like ice, is that grass, and he ends up a long way off the track.
Yeah. Also looked like he had a fairly big wiggle. As we see another car going off in the pit wall at the very back of the field. That's Trent Thomas there. So another car to find the pit wall exit. He's going to have a long time to wait, trying to pick a spot where he can rotate that car around as his teammate will blast past there. I think that's Marcus Vassi working his way through. And that's dropped him a long way now down the order.
So weird seeing this amount of actual barrier crashes. We rarely see it, but that's now 3 of the top 15 who have ended up in the barrier, and of course countless others who have had an excursion off the track. It'd be great to see a replay of Trent Thomas's crash, albeit it's quite inevitable that he probably just dips the wheel onto the outside grass and spun round. I did say earlier on it's a slipstream area that probably not actually when we went on board. You do have to lift, and when you do get into the turbulent air, then you can understeer. No turbulent air right there, but it was lucky there, Trent Thomas. Not too much damage on that car, albeit if I were him, I would be heading straight into the pits, picking up the fast repair. Just time to adjust his strategy a bit.
Yeah, and just watching the way that car was working its way through the final corner there, it just seemed to pick up a little bit of understeer mid-corner, and he's just not able to get it towards the curb in time, which probably would have saved him. He just picked up a little bit of that dirt just before you see the curb there, and around she went. Reasonably tricky track conditions out there tonight as well. 39 degrees on the track, 21 air temp, but something the guys will need to consider as well with how they want to play their tyre strategies. Go back to Nicholson and Warwick, 14th and 15th position. And this is the closest Nicholson's been here on his recovery now. He should be able to pick this one off down the inside, but he's not going to have it all his own way. Warwick's going to put up a pretty hefty defence and might be able to get back under him into turn 2.
Oh, I've got another car as well. That's Clark off the track at turn 2. But it is Nicholson then ahead of Warwick. And like he was running as high as 8th place, I believe, on the opening lap. He was ahead of Sislowski at one point, I believe. Not quite sure. Yeah, I think he was. Not anymore, he's down to 18th. And honestly, this is just as we saw in the Apex Racing League GT Championship in these exact cars. Much cooler conditions as well than this. But back then, there were so many mistakes and some properly competitive drivers making bicycle cops occur. Tom McMahon, I realise most drivers or most viewers that those names won't ring a bell, but they are very good drivers, those two drivers. And they were making mistakes, and very few managed to get to the end of the race without having some kind of off-track. And so that's got to factor into the guys' brains. Just keep it on track, because to make up a mistake around a cycle like this, you lose 10 seconds if you go off the track at turn 2. Keep it on the track, and you will be in a much better position. These guys are in a good position though. It's Rizzo leading the way still. Healy in second place. Healy, who's probably saving a little bit of fuel, albeit not a whole lot. Edwards a bit further back, 2 seconds back from Fusion Sim Racing. Still Huppert's running in 4th. And Martin Chris still doing very strongly. You can just see him in the background there, Chris. Only 5 seconds off the lead. Chris always a very strong qualifier, but as far as I can recall, not usually this competitive in the races, as we've just got a spinner just in front of these guys that they're going to have to deal with. But Chris doing a very good job out there.
Yeah, and that was it was like Gardner on the inside of the circuit there, so I don't know whether he's beached that car up on the little wall, the earth barrier there, but hopefully he should be able to get his way through. Lap times, actually he has got that car going, so we'll rejoin a long way down the order following that spin. Interesting to see the lap times from everyone really started to settle back down now into the 126s or mid 126s. As they work their way around. The first few laps pretty hectic, everyone into the 25s, but trying to now think of tyre conservation and extending the life where possible. Michael Healy, though, doing a stellar job in that heavy Porsche at the moment, just riding on the coattails of his teammate. And these two just probably going to play it by ear here. We might see a little bit of a change for the lead and a little bit of drafting opportunity here for Ross Rizzo to help extend his range.
We expect pretty much all the drivers to be running maximum fuel at the moment. That's kind of the thing to do, particularly Trak Esports, who have shown themselves to be the best in that department in terms of strategy. They are really a class above everyone else, it seems. I mean, Craig Edwards, to be fair, did run Daytona last year through a virtual safety car, but although he may have won anyway, but he's pretty good as well. But Trak Esports do seem to be the best, and probably the best strategy is to just fill it up with fuel and go to, say, the 45-minute mark. But you don't want to start with any less fuel than you need to, otherwise you'll have to put in more fuel later on. And of course, as the 40 kilos indicates, 40 kilos is probably only about a tenth or two slower for these cars. They're not particularly weight sensitive compared to, I know, let's say the FW31, the Williams F1 car that we have on the service, where a little bit of extra fuel in that will really disrupt the balance. And so if you can run as much fuel as you can at the start, then that will help you later on in the race. Also gives you a few more strategic options as well. But just dropping down is Laszlo ahead of Burgess. In fact, was that a back marker actually just losing out? It may have been Gardner again having a tough time out there. And, I don't think anyone lost any places, but yeah, Laszlo in 22nd place at the moment. Top of the amateur drivers is still Paul Rourke. He's up to 14th place. And with Sanders and of course Hughes had to pick up that drive-through penalty, did Christopher Hughes, for that incident earlier on. He's a long way off, back in 24th place, so it could be a good day for Paul Rourke right now.
Yeah, definitely. He's just pressing on, doing everything he needs to do, hitting his marks quite nicely. One driver we haven't really mentioned too much, though, as we keep an eye on him at the moment, Kobe Laszlo, already up 14 spots as well from where he started. So only 1 spot behind overall positional gains compared to Warwick, but looking pretty handy at the moment in the Mach 1 Esports car. He's got Bradley Saunders right ahead of him in the Money Pit Racing C8 entry there, and this could be a good opportunity for him up into turn 4. Not quite close enough to get the brakes done. It's interesting to see just how much these cars are wiggling around as the guys try and arrest the speeds there and get them pulled up in time. But this is a really nice drive at the moment here from Laszlo, and he's going to have a good opportunity now with the little bit of a bobble that Saunders had, and this should see him gain 1 more spot up to the 21st position.
Yeah, the Corvette's out of sorts through that banked left-hander. You'd expect the car to grip up there, but not on that occasion. Lasso driving it in deep, putting a lot of pressure on those front right. And I know it is almost watching a Formula 1 race right now where you're almost wincing whenever you see the drivers put pressure on the tyres, because this is a huge tyre eater circuit. Look how much the Corvette is showing. He's all over the place. It's as though he didn't have a rear wing, and he's off. That was absolutely incredible there for Bradley Sanders, and he's off into the wall now. What a shame that is. And he's actually stopped as well. I don't know if that was some kind of hardware issue there, Daniel, whether that was literally just the rear end giving up. We did see it earlier on, but now that he's not pulling away, it does look a bit suspect.
Yeah, it's a big one. He's not able to get that car moving. We also saw Martin Silvassi have a bit of a moment as well. He's managed to get that car back underway. The car of Saunders still stationary on the main straight here, so we may potentially see our first safety car for the night. That being said, It is well out of the way here. And on cue, safety car out on circuit.
So everyone's coming into the pits. Now the big question is, and this is tricky, I don't know what Alexander Bo's doing, but this is tricky now for the drivers. Do you take tyres at this pit stop and go to the end of the race on one set of tyres? I mean, that would be very tricky. So you couldn't get to the end of the race anyway in terms of fuel. So, this is tough. And everyone's coming into the pits. Everyone wants to get one of these pit stops complete. But this is a tricky one at the moment for these drivers. Do they take tyres or do they just take fuel? Judging by at the moment, I think most drivers are taking tyres as well, because they are taken separately to the fuel. So you just see the safety car. Who will he pick up is the big question. It's going to be Steve Janssen, who is going to be leading this race. He did not take tyres, it seems. Yeah, only 15 seconds stationary. Ben Dow was very slow, not stationary for long either. So he's up in second. John Puce didn't pit at all. He's third. And then Ross Rizzo is still in fourth, but he did take tyres. So most of the drivers there, Daniel, taking tyres. And that is a long way to go. I mean, like I said earlier on, this is a high tyre degradation track. To go an hour and 10 minutes on a set of tyres around this place in this weather, that's going to be really tricky.
Yeah, the left fronts are going to be screaming blue murder at the end of this one. They're going to cop an absolute pounding around the circuit. So be interesting to see whether or not maybe the guys are going to look at doing two sets of tyres here. If they're obviously taking them as early as we are, we've still got just over 70 minutes still left on this race. So a huge amount of time for one set of tyres. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see one more stop with all these guys taking down. For the guys that didn't pit though, or didn't take the tyres, it's a bit of an interesting gamble. Janssen, Dow, and Puce not taking those tyres. Dow coming back through had that big off earlier on in the race where he's a little bit of a victim of caught up in someone else's mess there and able to get back through. So that car's taken at least a quick repair to get underway. How are those tyres going to be handling compared to the guys behind? That'll be the interesting story now.
Yeah, who was that, sorry?
Bendale. He was caught up in the first car that went into the wall. I believe that was Jordan Pruden.
Yeah.
Who went in the wall there and just unwitting victim there. So he's got a nice fresh car. He's going to have to keep it that way, and it's a long way to go, knowing that he doesn't have that up his sleeve anymore.
Yeah, it's always something that you get into a routine of, or you should get into the routine of, is unticking your fast repair at your pit stop and only use it unless you need it. And hopefully other drivers haven't used their fast repair, because even if you have no damage, maybe if you have absolutely zero damage, then it may not use it, I'm not quite sure. But if you even have like a slight scuff, which is very possible, especially with the offs that these drivers have had, then you can quite easily use one up. So the drivers aren't going to be able to take both of their pit stops. We've just got one lap under the safety car. And so we have got Steve Janssen, who is from the pole position. One more pit stop to go for these drivers mandatorily, and just in order to get the fuel in the car, and he pulls away from the rest of the order. We are back racing starting lap 15 here at Phillip Island. And look at Rizzo immediately going for the move. We saw James Scott lose a race win in a similar circumstance than this when trying to get through traffic, but Rizzo is having no problems at the moment. And he's up into 3rd position straight away. Healy is going to have to go with him if he possibly can. And this is just a back marker, in fact, that they are in amongst. So clearly the waiver rounds didn't have enough time to occur. Of course, a manual safety car out there. And so he's got to be careful here as Healy from the Corvette's just behind. The back marker goes to the inside circuit, easy on the brakes. And that's past many of the front runners. Still Crisp doing a very good job just behind the next Beeman, Soslavsky, Whiting and Huggan rounding out your top 11 places at the moment. But doing a pretty good job at the moment is that car of, is that Adam Gardner? Losing a few places and doing a good job of just saying most of these cars passed, so that they are a lap ahead.
Yeah, doing a really good job not to impede anyone's run here. He's going to have a tough spot through this final few corners here, but I wouldn't mind betting that he will step aside down the inside and let them through. We do see a change of position there as well. I
think that was just another back marking, to be honest, chopping down.
Might be as well. I think that was Faven. He hasn't had a great run so far tonight either, but getting through.
Oh,
boy. There you go, Gardner is not.
And we've got a car in the middle of the track. Is it going to be able to avoid?
Oh,
yes. Oh, no, he's reversing. Oh, that was a bad thing to do, wasn't it? That wasn't a smart thing to do, and that should be a penalty for that one. My. Yes, right in the middle of the track, and we'll try to get a replay of that, but that final corner is treacherous for these drivers. In these high temperatures, fresh tyres of course for the drivers, and usually they come out the blankets pretty good as well. Should be warmed up by this point, and Specchier onto the grass again. And you can kind of see from his perspective that he thinks that he's really close to the pit wall there. And so he's just, I've just opened up the steering a bit. That was nearly disaster for a couple of other cars.
Yeah, and nearly took out the team car there of Chris Hughes as well, and that's the one thing you don't want to do is take your teammate out, so fortunate to not get that one done. But he picked up the exact same spot on the circuit there, into the tyre, into the dirt, and where she went again. So really the guys are struggling a little bit with that mid-corner understeer, especially when they're tucked up behind someone else to get those moves done. So a little bit of caution, no doubt, going across all the radios to all these guys just to calm it down a fraction through that second to last corner and set those runs up down the front straight here, as we see Jesse Butler now continuing to work his way up through the field. He's got Jason Bentz, who's still recovering following his earlier spin off circuit, and these guys are scrapping over the 12th and 13th position. Martin Crisp, however, has mirrors full of Tim Feeman down into turn 2. Feeman very much up along the inside there, not going to have the momentum. It's going to help a little bit more for Chris there, but Chris is going to have to be careful here. Feeman with a little bit of blinking issues behind, which could put him off a bit.
Chris seems to have the edge on Feeman in the first stint. Has been dropping back into his clutches ever since the safety car though. Both of these drivers, I mean, was there any difference in terms of how much fuel drivers took? Not a whole lot, kind of ranging from 41 seconds to 35 seconds for Whiting. He didn't take a whole lot of fuel, although Whiting is back up into 10th place. That was probably wise for Whiting. He's gained a few places during that safety car period. That's Feeman, who of course is a former champion. Look at this. This is Rizzo getting past Dow. The second place, Dow will actually have a pretty good line for the next corner, but I think Rizzo will have the acceleration, not a long run down into the final corner. This is high-risk scenarios for the championship leader. He's ahead though, and he's up into second place, but look at Healy, and also they're going to go either side of him. Look at Huppert's as well, getting terrific pace on the outside. Can he challenge for effective second place? They all take each other out, and they're off second and third in this race, along with Dow, all collide, and 3 wide into turn 1, and it's for absolute disaster. What a scene that was. And there it was a big off. What has happened to those couple of cars who went miles off the track? And you hate to see it, Daniel. Brilliant bravery. I mean, that was Hakkinen Schumacher-esque, but that is when it can go wrong.
Wow, that was a big one there. Here's a look at the onboard shot from Nathan Huppets down the inside, 3 wide, as they're trying to get around the car there, Ben Dow. I don't know whether Dow just moved a bit on the brakes. They're trying to start turning into turn 1 there or not, but got all the back of Healy. Healy had nowhere to go and then straight into Nathan Huppets, who is having a fantastic run. Just managed to get past his teammate through the pit stop there. Thank you to the chat for calling that one out, but just not able to get it done. And it looks like Dow just had a little bit of a movement there as we watched that onboard shot.
Yeah, see, from what I could see, I thought that Healy maybe came across a bit to the left. Maybe this will be a good view. It's fantastic to see, though, heading down this straight. I think it was all Healy's fault. I wonder if he knew that he was 3 wide. He would have been told by the sponsor, but maybe he told him, all right, it's only 2, but I mean, it's barely any movement across, is it? And you've got to be careful that you don't get disqualified going that far off the track. And so they drop well down the order and will surely have to take a pit stop as well. Where even are they? I'm trying to find them on the time screen. We've got Huppets down in 25th now. And then, yeah, Healy actually in 26th place, so they're still quite close to one another. And that promotes everyone else up in place. Janssen leads the way, albeit a bit out of position. Rizzo in 2nd, there's Edwards. Fieben up into 4th. He's got ahead of Crisp. Ahead of Crisp now is Timothy Fieben. Look at the chain of cars right behind them as well. They were a little bit, weren't that slow on the last lap with Fieben and Crisp. Not that much slower than the drivers behind. Dal, of course, with that spin as well. We've got a long chain of cars heading pretty much all the way back to Chris Whitesell down in 13th place.
Yeah, we might get lucky here for those two, though. There is a stationary car down in turn 2. It's the car of Aaron Specchio, and hasn't been able to get a move on. As we keep focusing on the backward shot here. Martin Crisp, but there he is, Specchio not going anywhere at all. See whether we get a safety car as a result of that one. If so, that will definitely close up the, or assist both Healy and Huppets come back up through the field there. Down into 3, though, doesn't look 2. Not looking like it's happening at the moment. Edwards still holding off Tim Fieben now. And these guys scrapping over that 3rd position.
Yeah, highly contested those positions, highly contested here as well. For 20th place, Jeremy Clark, who's running in the top 10 at one point, but the iRacing racing cars had a tough time of it. Professional driver. Here he goes down the inside of Del Braid, who's also a bit further up. No, Braid actually up 13 places when it starts, so this is pretty much as high as Braid has been so far. So it's been quite an adventurous day. Clark making an attempt at almost every corner right now. Some spectacular racing we have already seen here at Phillip Island. This round 8 of the championship, I believe, or maybe round 7. Of the championship, and of course the Trak Racer GT series. And if you're looking to upgrade your rig, go to Trak Racer. Lots of choices on the Trak Racer website. And go check it out for seats and rigs and or monitor mounts, all that type of stuff. Go to Trak Racer and you can get yourself a really high quality rig. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of assistance to find out what you want to get. Jeremy Clark into the pits, he's had enough. You can go to the end of the race from here on in. We've got an hour to go. A tank of fuel will probably take you to that hour. I think it's quite a low fuel consumption. Is that a low fuel? I don't know even how to judge that. But an hour to go, he should be able to get to the end of the race. So he just wants to get out of traffic. I wonder if we'll see anyone else go for that stretch.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether we do 60 minutes, however, there's still a long way to go on this set of tyres for those who haven't taken it. I'd still be looking to try and extend that run a little bit further on. For the guys that have taken it, you probably want to keep the car as light as possible without overloading it too much, just to help take a little bit of that load off. So it's a little bit interesting. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we don't see anyone at least maybe for the next 15 minutes or so, just trying to set themselves up to continue on. Looks like our 2 leaders up front really starting to edge a nice little clear gap over second and third. And Rizzo starting to get into striking distance to Janssen, only half, or just over 8/10 of a second off. Further back down the field, Huggan having a pretty solid run, very quiet tonight, up a couple of spots from where he started, along with Jason Bentz, who had that earlier off-track excursion and managed to find his way back up through the pointy end after the safety car as well. So these two looking pretty handy at the moment as well.
Janssen doing an insane job right now out in the lead. Remember, he's on old tyres. Everyone else pitted on lap 13. And the vast majority took tyres. Janssen, of course, pitted on lap 13 as well, but he didn't take tyres. Frankly, I think that was the right call. I mean, it's early stages here, but I would not want to do an hour and 10 minutes on a set of tyres. I want to not take tyres on my first stop and then leave it until maybe 45 minutes and then come in for tyres. It may not work brilliantly for him because he'll have to make a lot of overtakes when he does come into the pits, but at the moment he has been able to build up about a 10-second lead over Huggan, and that's where he would have been if he had taken tyres, approximately in that range. So of course tyres takes 26 seconds, but he'll be faster later on, and he's still extending that lead over to those midfield drivers. He's actually faster than Edwards at the moment, maybe a little bit slower than Edwards to be fair. 26.3 on that last lap for Janssen, then 26.0 for Craig Edwards. Rizzo only half a second faster than himself, and on this lap I think the gaps really come down a whole lot. Janssen crosses the line, and there you can see the gap for yourself. Janssen 2/100ths of a second faster on that last lap, and Edwards pretty much matching them as well. So, well, maybe the tyres aren't as big a problem as I thought they would be, or maybe Janssen is just driving the wheels off that machine.
Yeah, he's really setting some good, solid lap times. The pace between both himself and Rizzo, there was only 200ths of a second between both of them last time by, so looking after the tyres exceptionally well there and just continuing on. I did see too a note from Brad Saunders as well, so he actually had a wheel issue. So Sam, you were spot on the money there with the hardware issues that you thought might have contributed to his incident, and we're just pulling that car up and parking it alongside the wall. So a hard break for Bradley out there tonight. Hopefully he gets that one sorted and back underway for the next round.
Shame for Sanders, who was had a good chance at some big points tonight, but everything went wrong for him. Got that penalty earlier on, didn't he? And since then hasn't. And then of course that's a hardware failure for him. Garoich actually is now top of the rookie drivers. I'm not sure how Warwick lost that rookie lead. Maybe it was during the pit stops. Yeah, so Garoich didn't take tyres, and that's why he's up into 17th place. So he's the leader of the rookies. Leader of the outs, of course, is Martin Crisp, and top of the pro drivers is Ben Dowell, who has done a brilliant job at recovering back up into 7th place. Bentz is very close to Whiting, just looking at the timing screen, and also Whiting's name is still wrong on our timing screen. I don't know why. I don't think Whiting's name is that. That seems like a very exotic spelling of his name. Up in 8th place at the moment with the double I. But he is in 8th place regardless, and holding off Bentz on that occasion. But Bentz might be in for another chance there down into the hairpin. 1.5 of a second between the two of them, and Bentz might just be through here. And to run wide there was Whiting. He'll still have part of his car alongside on the next corner, but Bentz is clear. He's up into 8th position. And him and Dowell have done plenty of overtakes in recent laps since the safety car came out. Whiting just falling down the order. He's standing to 9th.
Yeah, doing a really good, solid job there to bring that car back up after those earlier issues and continuing forward. Dowell seems to have recovered after what we saw from that 3-wide action with himself, Nathan Huppets and Michael Keeley as well, so it hasn't seemed to have taken too much damage as a result of that. I think Race Control probably still reviewing that issue, so potential penalty still pending there for him, so keep an eye on that. One driver I am really interested to keep an eye on over the course of this one, Chris Barnes, down in 14th position at the moment. The now only Ferrari still out there running, and it's been a really good drive for him at the moment, up 17 spots from where he started, so a good solid run there. The car looking still pristine as always. And he's not that far behind Chris Whitesall as they work their way up through turn 2 now.
Yeah, as I say, I haven't paid too much attention to him, but just at his fastest first sector, actually faster than the race leader in that first sector on this lap. Sectors actually make sense around here. There's only 3 of them. What have you done, iRacing? This should be 9 usually around a circuit like this, but no, just the 3, and it makes it a little bit easier for us to understand what parts of the circuits are which. Jensen versus Rizzo. Rizzo has been carving through these drivers with ease so far, going for his 4th race win of the season, or maybe even his 5th, I'm not quite sure. I think it would be 3 in a row if he could win this one as well. And he is all over the back of Jensen now, who I doubt will put too much of a fight. Jensen just extending that gap through the final corner, a little bit of turbulence for Rizzo. These cars are a little bit area sensitive, and you can see that gap just extending in the 3rd sector. Jensen holding on to the lead for now. No bonus points for leading the race, but I'm sure he's been enjoying his time at the front.
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job at the moment. The pace exceptionally consistent in this car as well. So even with the additional that 40 kilos on board, not really impeding the progress at the moment. It's a really nice controlled run here in the Porsche. It goes a little defensive, just moves it over maybe half of car width there in towards the start of the braking zone just to keep Rizzo behind. But Ross, similarly with those fresher tyres, doing a really good job just maintaining, flowing the car through nicely in the corners, which is really going to take that load off those tyres. Hasn't locked the brake at all, and actually, if anything, just getting. Whiting had a moment there as well, down into turn 4, down in Honda, so he's dropped quite a few spots now. He's now got Trent Thomas back in front of him, and he's looking to replay.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, suddenly seeing the 2nd place amateur driver. Oh, it's another self-mistake, and I mean, it's like seeing the same incident over and over again. That final corner crash with dipping wheel onto the grass, and same at the head as well. Unique circuit this, and it has a few more curves around this place, so it'll be a bit easier, but I think the challenge is very great for these guys, and that was straight for Whiting. Skating off the track. Is this going to be a change for 7th place? It's Dow versus Benz. Benz is flying along. He was a little bit further behind Dow just a moment ago, but he's passed. Nice move through the 1st corner. Benz is up into 7th. What was that last lap time for Benz? 26. Oh yeah, pretty good. Pretty much matching the leader's pace, maybe a 10th of a second slower than the leaders on that last lap, albeit I think he may have been a little bit held up through the final corner. And straight away up into 7th place now is Jason Benz, new driver for this season, running the C8. It's been a very good addition to the championship. Here it was.
Yeah, nice run down the front straight here, really just sucking up the back of the BMW. They're using the draft well, fires it through the outside, a little bit of a wiggle mid-corner, which is not what you want, and clean around the outside, gets it slowed nicely into turn 2 there. And that's a pretty textbook pass down around that corner of the position of the track. Although Dow now back ahead, so not sure what happened to Benz there. Maybe lost it up into turn 4 there, and it's changed position between these guys. Tom Huggin now closes right back in. You see where Ben's potentially lost that spot here. Actually, moving towards turn 6, Siberia gets a big wiggle in the rear end.
Unfortunate not to go off the circuit there. And all that hard work, that very nice turn 1 move, he's going to have to do it all over again. And once again, the drive's struggling. I mean, it's just constantly, sliding. I mean, if you're watching Skippies or MX-5s, it's to be expected, but these are GTE cars, heavy cars, and highly downforce cars as well, high downforce cars, and yet they are sliding through most of these corners. Really does show the challenges of this Phillip Island track. Here he goes, Benz going for the outside again. But some pretty generous driving there from Dow. He left the car's width on the outside, even though he absolutely need to. But it wasn't a good enough exit for Benz. I just wonder if Dow might be better to let Benz pass. Seeing that he's already lost out to him earlier on, he knows that he's faster. There's a bit of a growing queue behind those drivers now. Might just be best to let him go and move on to the and focus on other stuff. Dale Grade, so in 18th place, he's got Paul Warwick now, who is back at the lead of the rookie class. Royce just moving down. Surprised how close the field is, to be honest. Still, we had the pit stop 15 laps ago now, Daniel, and yet the top 16, or the top 15 maybe is a better example, are only separated by 18 seconds at the moment, which is pretty close. There's only a second a lap difference, so they're staying a bit closer to one another than what they were at the start of the race.
Yeah, a lot closer there, and I think to the use of the draft here, and obviously we've got some guys on some alternate strategies as well, newer and older tyres, really starting to come into a bit of a play here. I'm surprised it hasn't sort of extended as much as maybe what we saw in that opening.
Rizzo, he's into the lead. Russ Rizzo has managed to get past Steve Janssen and has taken the lead of this race. Janssen off strategy, of course, but that's an important move for Rizzo. Sorry, Danny.
No, Rizzo doing a really good job back through here up into fourth. And actually the chat poll, when will Janssen pit for tyres? Here's Rizzo straight down the inside. Actually, pretty textbook manoeuvre. Janssen just swings back over a little bit, try and opens up the exit there. And Rizzo already now 6/10 clear as they work their way through.
Yeah, and I was thinking that we might see a Barber situation. I remember when Rizzo had the perfect strategy, but he spent, maybe even been Janssen that day as well. Not sure who it was. He was stuck behind two drivers for probably about half an hour, and in the end they had good enough pace, and Rizzo had a good enough strategy to still win the race, but he had to spend a while behind them. I think got to a point where he was just happy to stay behind them. Was very reluctant to really risk it. I thought that might be turning into the same thing because he did spend about 5 laps behind Janssen, but he's finally passed and he should be able to start pulling away a bit. Janssen, to answer the question in the chat, I think around here will probably be where Janssen comes into maybe. I would say that. I would normally say that he'd come in now just to even out the amount of time he spends on each set of tyres, but his pace is so good at the moment, and he's still in some clear air. He's not going to be overtaken anytime soon by Edwards. I think he might just stay out a bit longer, maybe try to go the full hour or so. He's probably got enough fuel. Might even have enough fuel to go to the end of the race too. There, yeah, so he's probably got enough fuel to go to the end of the race, but of course we'll have to take that tyre stop at some point. So yeah, maybe 5-10 minutes I think for Janssen, and then it'll be very quick at the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely, and he's really not losing too much time at the moment since Rizzo's got past the pace. 126.7 last time by Rizzo, 125.74, so a little bit quicker there, which obviously we saw the pass for the lead, but this time by as the guys run across the line, not much separating him at all. Rizzo another sub 26 second, Janssen a little bit quicker that time by 26.1, so maybe the tyre consistency just starting to fall away a fraction here now for him, but still continuing on quite nicely. As you see, Hagen and Dow going back at it again. That being said, where did Jason Bentz go? He's well down the order now. I don't know whether hasn't come back through for another pit stop, but Bentz was right in amongst these guys. He finds himself down in the 14th position as well. So Hagen has a good opportunity here to gain a couple more spots.
Yeah, Bentz got back past Dow. I saw that one, but I didn't see him drop down to 14th place, as we might be able to get it here. Maybe this wasn't the move that he made against Dow. And then Bentz, what does he do here? Oh, he's lost the rear end again and skating off the track. So Bentz has got the pace, just lacking some consistency today. Otherwise, I think he'd be fighting for a podium. Frankly, I think his pace has been that good. But that turn two, so easy to get some opposite lock. It was weird actually, he got very late on in the corner. Maybe the just losing a bit of traction as he put his foot down. Of course, do have traction control in these cars, albeit they won't have it whacked all the way up. You still want to have a bit of control so that the computer systems aren't limiting your power too much. And was struggling on the exit there. Trent Thomas having a bit of a dull one at the moment. Had an issue earlier on in the race, got himself back up to 15th during the pit stops, but since then hasn't been able to do a whole lot. However, has got a lot of cars right in front of him. He's got everyone up to Ben Dow just sitting ahead, so that could be in the box seat here, Thomas. And I just wonder maybe he could come into the pits for an early pit stop, get that pit stop done, and go for the undercut on all these cars, because I think they might start battling one another and might start losing each other time.
Yeah, definitely an opportunity for a pretty solid undercut if he's able to pick it off at the right time. But keep an eye on that. He was quicker by a couple of tenths of a second last time by compared to everyone in front. He's already closed right up on the back of Bence. I think that's Adam Gardner in a little moment through turn 4. We'll see whether he just allows these guys to get through. And actually Trent just loses the back end as he tries to back that car up and get it just under the Mach 1 car there. So not a great run there for him. And the Michael Healy Porsche, which is a lap down just behind as well. So a little bit of team wrecks trying to work their way back up through, but Healy, following that big incident we saw earlier on, not going to be in contention at the end of this one, unfortunately.
So I didn't realise that Dow got that pit stop done earlier on, of course. So he didn't take tyres, of course, but of course, didn't come in under the safety car to Dow, but has already got one of his pit stops complete. So he is out of position and will drop down later on, but he's got very old tyres at the moment. That's why he's quite as slow as he is. Huggen almost passed him, 1/10 of a second. The gap between the two of them. Oh, here he goes, Huggen down the inside in the Ford GT. A good line there from Dow. Didn't squeeze his opponent, took a standard normal racing line. However, he'll have to defend again into the Honda hairpin. Put the car into the middle of the track. He's leaving it quite open at the moment. Here comes the Ford GT, and it was open there for Dow. He could have gone, open for Huggen there. But he didn't feel the confidence on the brakes to slow that down the inside. And Huggen stays in 8th place. And they are starting to lose each other a bit of time on that last lap. Dow 26.4. Janssen in 2nd place, 25.7. Janssen still with very good pace. So they are losing each other probably about a quarter of a second with this battling, and the gap now to Janssen, who they are effectively battling, of course, because Janssen's got to take those tyres later on in the race, up to 15 seconds, 25 seconds lost when you take tyres. So I'm not sure if these guys will be thinking about that at the moment. It's just one car, but looking good for Janssen whilst these guys are fighting one another. Benz is off the circuit again. He's having an absolute mess.
Yeah, it looks like probably another wiggle in the back there. So the C8's a little bit uneasy tonight for these guys. Here's a look at how that one unfolded. He's got one of the Fishy Motorsports car just ahead of him and picks up the dirt on the outside of the curb there and just spins it right around. So the grass tonight, very slick for all these contenders going around there. And for Benz, that's not a great run. He's in the pit lane now to get that pit stop underway and done, but it's been a really tricky night out there for him. You see Craig Edwards and Phoeben still scrapping it out for this 3rd position. These two have been inseparable for the last 10, 15 laps here since we went back to green after the safety car. And Edwards just having enough to hold him off at the moment, but Phoeben looking very racy in the Mach 1 car.
Awesome to see the likes of Phoebe and Huppert back up the front. Remember, Huppert was fighting for 2nd place, Heck fighting for the lead earlier on in this race, and now it's Phoeben returning up to the front. Phoeben, these last couple of seasons, just had awful starts to the championship. It's so weird, and usually builds himself back into it. Won back-to-back races last season at Monza and another event, I believe. And seemingly finding some more competitiveness as this season goes on as well. Out of championship contention, but the former champion would still love a podium. And they're keeping up with the leaders at the moment. Rizzo just with a slight downturn of pace recently. The gap's back down to half a second out in front. Once again, I repeat, Janssen still needs to make an extra pit stop, or still needs to take the tyres out his pit stop, which will lose him time. But Rizzo not pulling away from him, and Edwards and Phoeben are closer now to Rizzo than they were 15 minutes ago, albeit only by about a second. Also, they need to gain a little bit more time than that if they're going to swing themselves back into contention. Phoeben, though, to be fair, saving quite a bit of fuel behind Edwards, I imagine, so he might be able to get a shorter pit stop and only 4 seconds behind the race leader. If he can take a couple of seconds less fuel, then well, that would cut into that lead quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of these guys will have the fuel calculators burning at the moment, trying to work out what they're going to need for this final stop when they do come through. But interesting to see where or not he might be able to gain a little bit of an advantage. Maybe if he can save it on that pit lane transit time, that will definitely help see him gain a spot ahead. Paul Warwick on the back of Chris Pallett in the Fusion C8 there. A bit of damage on the front end of that car, I believe. It's the black front end on it. And these guys well down the order from where we had seen them earlier on. Both drivers 12 and 13 spots respectively gained over the course of the run. But a little further off, we like Dale Breed also coming back into contention with the slot as well, as you see him trying to just get onto the back of the draft there with Paul Warwick.
So not far off the leader, these guys. Going to go a lap down, certainly, by the end of the race. Just wondering with the answer, I was just doing some number crunching. You brought up calculator and thought, let's do some maths as a Butler and Dow. Butler up into 8th position. Oh, Whitesall on the inside of the track. Losing places is Chris Whitesall, and he might lose another position here to Thomas. Thomas, who was just trying to make up some moves himself from 15th place formerly, could get up to 12th place here. He'll be able to get past. He's got the better line, seemingly. The BMW powers his way ahead. Whitesall, in fact, down to 18th place. So what is going on with Whitesall?
Yeah, the Exeter Siberia there. Whitesall just moving across over the nose of Thomas and gets dispensed hard off into the fence. Here's a look back at the replay. This will show us the initial incident for Whitesall. Has a big moment trying to get under Ben Dow there. Bit of a half spin, gets the car back underway. Maybe just a little bit of a cheeky rejoin there across the nose of Trent Thomas, and this is where that one unfolded. So Thomas ran the outside in that Trak Esports BMW. Whitesall just pushes over a bit. Nowhere really for Trent to go, and Whitesall hard off into the tyre barrier.
Hopefully he hasn't used his fast repair so far. And that is the shame for the Joe, who was running in 10th place just previously. Beeben has got ahead of Craig Edwards. Back on Esports ahead of Fusion Sim Racing. And this is how it happened. It's going to be a mistake from the Corvette. Too deep. Maybe not. Yeah. Kinda. I don't know. That was weird. Seemed to get it done on the brakes, but maybe too early on the brake, early on the throttle. And past goes Timothy Phoeben for this 3rd position, and effective 2nd position as well. It was for Edwards, yeah, so it was actually a slide, wasn't it? It wasn't on the brakes at all, it was just a slide. And finally the pressure tells. Phoeben had dropped back a little bit, he was up to about half a second behind, but was close enough to take advantage of that. We've now got the 888 up into 3rd position. Good news for him.
And now that he's been released, we'll see what he's able to do in the Porsche there. Hopefully, he should be able to get a bit of a time advantage ahead there. Further down the order from one Mack car to another one. Jesse Butler still pushing on in 8th position. Ben Dowell just behind him. Simon Nicholson a little further behind, on with Chris Barnes as well. So these guys seem pretty comfortable just outside the top 10. And keeping a pretty good run. Pace is very consistent on these guys at the moment. 26.8 for Butler last time by.
I think Butler got past Dowell a couple of laps ago and takes that 8th place, but Dowell keeping up. I'm sure Butler would like to a bit of a gap between him and his rivals, although they have started to just spread out a little bit. You can see just going down to Chris Barnes, this little train with Thomas as well, not too far behind. In 12th position, fastest lap of the race for Ross Rizze. Well, he's been a bit inconsistent as Rizze at Interlagos. Was it Interlagos? Where I think he set like 6 laps within a 10th of a second or one another. So usually very consistent as Rizze. He's been a little bit more up and down to date. Sometimes in the 26s, sometimes in the 25s, but at 25.4 is quite some lap time. He's just set a very fast first sector as well. So putting his foot to the ground now is Ross Rizzo, and pulling away from the rest of the order about 4 tenths of a second faster than Timothy Pheban on that last lap, and tries to build up a gap now before the pit stops come into effect. They can pretty much pit on the last lap of the race, I believe. I don't think there's really any fuel that they've got to take, but as per the rules, you've got to do 2 pit stops. So we might see some drivers come in on the penultimate lap of the race and get a pit stop done. I don't really see why you wouldn't do that, frankly. You would want to run as little fuel as possible. He's got clear air, has Rizzo at the moment, so he might still be another half an hour away from his pit stop.
Yeah, and we're only 3 minutes from ticking over 60 minutes to complete in this event as well. So potentially maybe having a look at whether he wants to take tyres next time by. I think Jansen's now at the point where those tyres have well and truly fallen off the cliff. He's hemorrhaging time to Ross Rizzo at the moment. That gap continuing to extend 1.8 seconds, and just like that, he's in the lane to get his stop done. So for when the question was asked, when will he pit? Lap 40, and that's not a bad run on that used set of tyres as he just gets into the pit box now to complete that stop. Tim Pheban and Craig Edwards continuing on their scrap. Martin Crisp starting to close in on the back of this little fight as well, so he's going to be in with a chance maybe to gain 1 or 2 spots if there's a little bit of an issue for either of these two. Connection issues still plaguing Tim Pheban at the moment, just seeing leaking in and out there.
What a drive this is from Martin Crisp. He is battling legitimately for an overall podium right now, the amateur driver. Oh, here he goes. He's going to do it on Edwards. Here we go. Second place in the championship, almost being overtaken by Crisp, who's got a good exit, and he's ahead. He's ahead. Oh, well, put that on your mantelpiece, Martin Crisp. Lovely move on Edwards, who isn't happy about it, but I think that was fully legit. But that was a mile away. Lovely overtake there from Crisp. Caught him unawares, and just puts his car on the inside. You can see how tight he was on the inside. Nothing that Edwards can complain about. And Crisp up into 3rd.
Yeah, it's a cracking move there from Chris to get that position change done. And remember, he had a really solid run only a few weeks ago at Indianapolis here, so building back on that momentum and starting to work his way through. He's already gained a nice little 4 tenths of a second there over Martin Crisp, and now he's going to set his eyes forward. He's got Tim Pheban up there, and this could be a very good opportunity for XRC to get back up on the podium.
Gets Pheban now for second place. Same strategy across for Crisp, although he did take a little bit less fuel during the first pit stop, so he might have to take more fuel in the second pit stop. He took about 3 seconds less in his first pit stop, so might be close up, might lose him a place, but might look pretty good. This is last not too far back as well in 5th. So where did Jansen come back out on track? It's not bad for Jansen. It's not bad. He's 19th now out on track, and he's in a little bit of clean air. He's got 4.5 seconds up to Nathan Hutpers, and then Hutpers has got 10 seconds in front of him. So that was a good time to come into the pits actually for Steve Jansen. He's got some clean air now, and he's just at the fastest second and third sectors out there on his outlap. So those fresh tyres, he's a weapon now, is Steve Jansen. Will be really interesting to see now what his lap times are. This could be fast enough the race coming up for Steve Jansen.
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly too, he was a couple of seconds quicker than all our guys on their first round of pit stops that did take the tyres as well. So that's also going to play into his advantage here as he works his way back up through the field. You can just see that Hub's just coming out of shot. But already the pace from Jansen as he works his way up through turn 4, really, really impressive.
Now the fastest first sector now for Jansen. He's got the hat trick. Come on, set some good sectors here. Geroich is off the circuit. Shame for Nicholas Geroich, who is back onto the circuit now. But Jansen is it as past his second sector as well. I did a 25.7 last time. I think it is another fastest second sector. So this could this even be a 24 potentially from Jansen. Geroich into the pits, by the way. So too is Dal. Of course, Dal will have to take tyres, so we'll drop quite far down. Geroich has got to take tyres as well, I think. But here comes Janssen. Oh, Thieben's off the circuit. Thieben is off the circuit. What has happened to the man who was in second place? Janssen obliterates the fastest lap, a second faster than what anyone's done so far in this race. He's storming along. But what has happened to Timothy Thieben, who is still off the track at the moment? For Mach1 Esports, there he is. Oh, that's an odd place to lose it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's off the back end of turn 4 there as well. So here's a look at that all on his own. No one really around him. And I wonder if he's still having those connection issues, dropping in and out. Gets it up on the curb, picks up the tyre again, and around she goes and beaches it up on the earth embankment. So he's able to get that car back around, but drops a huge amount of time there as he tries to pull it back around. And that will now promote Martin Crisp up into the second spot. So gifts continue to come in here for Chris. Tim Thieben now trying to work his way back. He's got Michael Whiting just ahead. You see Trak Thomas a little further up ahead of these two as well. So going to be a bit of a recovery effort now for Tim as he works his way through.
Shows how close everyone is when a spin like that drops a drive from second place to 11th. We've been green flag racing now for 45 minutes. And then a mistake like that loses you 9 places. Really is very close to that. Of course, Huppert and Janssen will be storming after him later on as well. You can see how quick that lap time for Janssen was. Absolutely insane. And the fresh tyres really are helping him out a lot. Thomas gets ahead of Barnes. Thomas, all of a sudden, up into 8th place. Spent a lot of time in 15th after the safety car, but he's been making some good moves since, setting some good laps time since. He's up into 8th. He's got Butler and Nicholson only just ahead. I could maybe a bit too far ahead with 25 minutes to go. He could certainly catch these guys.
Yeah, and these guys are going to need to start getting on with business, because looking at the adjusted time at the moment, based on them coming down the lane at the moment, they will lose those spots to Steve Janssen, and as he comes further through, he's only 34 seconds off the back of this train as well. And consider we're looking at anywhere around 35 to 40 odd seconds just for a quick splash. Total transit time, he's in with a good opportunity to jump all of these guys.
So a very quick start-finish line, of course, as well here. And of course, you lose quite a bit on the pit entry and the pit exit. I think he'd be close to us. I don't think he'd lose quite as much as 35, just with the amount of time you'd spend down the pit straight anyway. But maybe like 25 seconds, perhaps, they'll lose. And with the pace that Janssen is setting at the moment, he's hemorrhaging the gap that they did have. 25.3, so not quite that impressive for Janssen. Maybe those fresh tyres were really quick out of the blocks, and just struggling to back that up now. But he is still a second lap faster than those drivers. It goes without saying that he's still a lot faster. Also, Rizzo and Crisp, Edwards and Cincinnati all just set their personal best lap of the race. So the pace coming to these guys. I wonder what the temperature is. Maybe it's just getting a little bit cooler out on track now. 34 degrees, there you go. So it was 39 earlier on. It's down to 34. And I think that's why the times are getting a bit better as this race is going on.
Yeah, we're also very late into the afternoon now, 4:30 on the 15th. So only 7 days ahead of schedule, but those conditions are really going to suit these guys, especially as the race progresses on for the next 30 minutes. Edwards starting to close back in on Martin Crisp as well. We just saw them exiting at the bottom of frame momentarily, and this fight for second place really going to start heating up now.
Yeah, Edwards already done by Crisp. But if he can save a bit of fuel maybe behind Crisp, we'll be able to undercut him. Or, I don't even know what the term is. I mean, they could pit on the same lap and Edwards would just take less fuel and therefore be ahead. But it's difficult to tell. Crisp, like I said earlier on, did take less fuel at his pit stop, but he may have started with more fuel. He may have saved more fuel in the early stages. So, it might just be the characteristics of that Ford that it is slightly better on its fuel. So it's tricky to tell how long they'll be stationary in their stall for. Trent Thomas is already on the back of Butler and Nicholson. Needs to get on with this quick with the threat of Janssen looming behind. Janssen, the top of the drivers who have so far come into the pits. Also, Jason Bentz might be a danger as well, because Bentz with all those spins earlier on, but since his pit stop, he has actually done a lot better as Thomas comes into the pits and was committed on that pit entry as well, not leaving anything to spare, and heads on in. And this will be tight then between him and Janssen. He did have, what is the gap to Janssen? He did have 30 seconds to Janssen. He will have to take pretty much no fuel whatsoever. Maybe a couple of second stations. So I think he'll just be ahead, but of course Janssen will have those fresh tyres.
Yeah, and Trent out, down and away. So 8.5 seconds of fuel went into that car, and he has just rejoined the circuit. So only marginally ahead of both Nathan Huppert's and Steve Janssen. You can just see them firing through in the back of shot there. And Janssen's pace just falling off a little bit. Hopefully he hasn't taken too much out of those tyres after that earlier hot lap that he put in there, that 24.7, but just struggling maybe a fraction just to gain up on Trent. But he is going to have a good opportunity here, especially if Nathan Huppert's can close up onto the back of the Trak Esports car.
I mean, if I'm Jesse Butler now, I'm into the pits. I don't know if he's got a spot, so I don't know how much info he's got on what's going on, but you've got to come into the pits now and cover off that undercut from the others, because if he leaves it 2 laps, he could go from being clear of Thomas to being behind Thomas, being behind Halperts, and being behind Janssen as well. So I think coming into the pits now would be a wise decision for Butler. It doesn't seem like he's going to listen to me though. He's going to stay out. So yeah. If he loses this race now, his pace is still good. 25.8 actually his fastest lap of the race there for Jesse Butler. So his pace is good, but I still think it might be worth covering off that pit stop from the others. Crisp coming under increasing pressure from Edwards. Edwards, who was maybe getting stuck behind Theben. It seems like the pace is ebbing and flowing for these drivers at the moment. Chris seems to have the advantage 10 minutes ago, and now it's Edwards who's closing onto the back. And Sislowski another 5 seconds back, 10th of a second faster on that last lap. Sislowski not catching fast enough to really make much of an impression.
No, he's got a little bit of work to do. I think Sislowski's still coming to grips with the C8. We only saw him out last week, getting used to that car again. Good run, however, for him. Just not quite got the pace still yet to make his final pit stop of the night. But these two starting to stretch a pretty handy advantage at the moment. 5 seconds clear to the 4th pace Trak Esports car, and not much separating either of these two. The laps very competitive between either of them. Last time by, it was a 1:25.72 for Chris. Edwards just trailing in that draft on 1:25.73. So we're down to hundredths of a second separating these two as they work their way through. We'll begin now, lap 48.
For anyone questioning, why doesn't Edwards come into the pits now and get the undercut? Well, if he came into the pits now, he'd probably come out around Timothy Theben and be stuck behind Theben potentially. So I doubt he'd be wanting to do that. Butler's off the track, so we've had a few drivers come into the pits. But Jesse Butler, that's a long way off. How's he ended up out there? He's almost into the sea. Here it is, and it's by himself. Well, this is odd. Oh, he's gone off at turn 1, but he's all right. And then just waiting on speed through 2, and so slippery is the grass. The gravel's pretty slippery as well. And then he's tried to get his foot down as well, and just sends him even further off the track. So Butler with a crucial mistake. Where have those drivers who've just come into the pits come out? So we've got Nicholson ahead of Thomas still. So that was a good move there from Nicholson, but Thomas goes down the inside into the Honda hairpin, and Thomas is ahead. So that earlier pit stop for Trent Thomas, it got some of the gap down to Nicholson, and Nicholson maybe leaving it 1 lap too late, and once he came out of the pits, he was left vulnerable from Thomas, and he's down into 11th place, but he is still ahead of Huppert and Janssen, although they will be putting some pressure on him in the closing stages. So the drivers who are yet to pit in that big old fight was Theben. Butler is now into the pits, but will be a long way behind these drivers because of the fact that he had that off just a moment ago. And yeah, so really just Theben, the only one of those drivers yet to come into the pits.
Yeah, we see Silvassi also dropping in the lane for his stop. Other than that, we've still got our top 7 yet to come through and complete their final stops. We see Nathan Harpitz with the lights ablaze as he works his way up onto Nicholson here. This is a pretty hotly contested run for all these guys down into turn 1. Trent there a little bit wide on the exit. That'll slow him up a fraction through turn 2 there. But Harpitz, after being sort of the unwitting victim there in that 3-wide action following the restart with Ben Dow and Michael Healy really coming on back strong now into that top 10 spot, and plenty of opportunity to see him gain a few more positions. And keep an eye on that Porsche just behind these guys as well. That's Steve Jansen, who has still got the quickest lap out there tonight by a fairly hefty margin, almost a second advantage, and he's closing up onto this battle also.
It seems as though it's that old tyre model thing on iRacing of the tyres being absolutely lightning out of the blankets, maybe with the low pressures, and then they get slower once the pressures rise, which hasn't usually been that much of a thing in the new tyre model, but that maybe was the case because since then Jansen's not come close to that lap time, and the pressure tyres not helping him that much, although yeah, he's not really lapping much faster than he was earlier on, so maybe the tyres aren't that big a thing. I was making a big deal out of it earlier on, just from past commentary experiences, but maybe not so much of a problem for these drivers. It'll be interesting to get an interview with a few of them post-race. We will hopefully get an interview with our top 3 later on when the checker flag is out. Still Rizzo leading the way, Crisp and Edwards in 2nd and 3rd positions. Barnes right on the tail of Pellets. Bent's catching up to these guys as well. Bent's, of course, well out of position. Should really be fighting with Huggan and Theben right now. Instead, much further down than he'd like. Also, Christopher Hughes up into 7th place. Yet to come into the pits, Hughes, for his 2nd pit stop. But still doing very well. It's fair to see a rookie driver quite that high up as Edwards into the pits. Edwards comes into the pits. He's going to go for that undercut on Crisp. Now, will he be ahead of Theben, or will he be just behind Theben? So I think Theben's going to be able to get ahead. Yeah, Theben is well clear, so a bit longer than I thought on that pit stop. And Edwards will have some clear air, so that's good news for Edwards, actually. That he's come out in some clear air, and now he's got to try to undercut Martin Crisp if he possibly can. Crisp should be able to go maybe another 5 minutes, because they pitted about 20 minutes into the race. The fuel can go about an hour, so might be able to get to the 1 hour 20 mark. And then, of course, put that 7 seconds of fuel in or so. Pretty much everyone has been putting in the same amounts of fuel. Surely Crisp will cover off this attempted undercut. He's had a good in-lap here. Sector times, in fact, actually lost a bit of time through the first sector, did Crisp. It's about half a second to Ross Rizzo. I wonder if that will be costly, as he does come into the pits, covers off the undercut from Edwards, gets it stopped. And now this has got to be a very quick pit stop in order to hold on to this 2nd place on track.
Yeah, we should keep an eye on that as Edwards works his way through turn 10, up, well, actually turn 11 there, a little short shift gets it up into 12, and a bit of a wiggle as the car sets his way through. We did have some guys just questioning too about the possibility of some of these drivers potentially coming down to knock over their final stop on the very last lap just prior to the start-finish line. And I'm having a quick look through the rulebook. There's nothing to say that they couldn't get it done, but ideally you'd want to have that pit box a little bit further back to the start of the entry where possible to make that one work, but you'd have to be a pretty risky strategy to try and pull that one off.
Yeah, and Chris coming out behind Edwards, and Chris was stationary for 13 seconds, so I had said earlier on how he took a bit less fuel, 3 seconds less fuel at his first pit stop, and he's taken 6 seconds more fuel at his 2nd pit stop as Chris, so that's kind of cost him quite bad, although 6 seconds more, he's 7.5 seconds behind Edwards, so he may have been behind Edwards anyway, But Edwards up into 5th place then ahead of Crisp, and that is effectively 2nd place now for the Future Sim Racing driver, who is Ross Rizzo's biggest challenger for the title. And like I said at the back end of last week, we're getting into the part of the season where you can't just have damage limitation against an in-form opponent. You have got to start taking the initiative and start beating him. And so Edwards will be frustrated still, I imagine. He hasn't been able to make any dent into that championship lead at the moment. Warwick in 18th place at the moment. He's had all of his pit stops complete, as Tom Huggan just coming out of the pits. Apologies, Huggan. No, what's going on there? Yeah, Huggan coming out of the pits. There you go. And he is behind Chris. Not that far behind Chris, about 3 seconds behind, but that's looking like a solid 4th position for Tom Huggan at the moment. Unless, Beeben's only 20 seconds ahead is Timothy Beeben, so I doubt Beeben will be able to do anything. Christopher Hughes, the only driver from 4th position down to 21st position, yet to come into the pits. You would think that he will have to come into the pits soon, because we are starting to get to that hour since his last pit stop.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw what Janssen was able to do with the Porsche there and got a really good run on that used set of tyres. But when Hughes does come through, we'll need to complete the tyre strategy, and that's going to send him well down the order. But a fresh set of boots for what could be under 12 minutes left on the clock, he could find himself picking up a few positions on the way through the field. Interestingly, just keeping an eye, we saw Edwards and Crisp go for their respective stops. Chris, unfortunately, dropping down behind Edwards, had quite a bit longer stationary time. It was 13.9 seconds, plays 7.3 for Edwards. So I don't know whether there was a little bit of a miscalculation on the fueling strategy or not, but that will see Chris effective 3rd position at the moment once the stop cycle through.
Yeah, I think he took a little less fuel at his first stop and maybe had a bit more to take in a second, and maybe Edwards was saving a bit of fuel behind him. We should have a chat with the pair then, although, it'll be interesting to see, because really, everyone's kind of taken six or 7 seconds worth of fuel, and Crisp is the outlier there, so it's odd that he had to take quite as much fuel as he did. By the way, I don't think Hughes even has to take tyres. I think he's literally just got to take fuel as Hughes. He got his tyres done during the safety cars pit stop, so he won't drop down that far. I imagine he will probably be about 20th pace. Oh, off the track is Butler. Oh, what a shame for Butler. He really had a chance at P6, and I think that's his 2nd off at that corner. And so driven it in too deep, and you feel like an absolute idiot when you do that, because you just think, well, why was I pushing it so hard? I mean, the risk versus the reward, and he was heading off the circuit. That wasn't even close. And maybe the tyre's not helping.
And it was almost an almost exact carbon copy of what we saw the first time by that sent him off out that way, just not picking up the tyre barrier on the outside there, but getting back underway nonetheless. Nicholson, though, mirrors full of Nathan Huppert's right behind Stevie Janssen, is close right up onto the back of this fight, as we see Chris Hughes now in the lane to complete that 2nd stop for himself tonight, so he'll fall down the order as everyone cycles through. But Huppert's with a solid charge on here at the moment. He could have an opportunity down into turn 1. Maybe, if not, get it slowed up enough, rotate that car through, maybe pick it up through turn 2.
Because it was Michael Healy who he collided earlier on with, as Rizzo comes into the pit, so he was pushing as far as he could as well. Where is Healy at the moment? Did he, in fact, retire? No, he's 25th, and is still running, I believe, although he can't get... has he just towed back? He may have literally just towed back, because he's only, 2 laps down. But seemingly out of the race now. It's Michael Healy, so that is a shame after fighting for 2nd place earlier on. So Rizzo already out of the pits. And what is going on with Sislowski and Beeben? Beeben will be behind Huggan, you would think, but he should be ahead of Thomas. It might be close, actually, because Beeben was around Thomas, wasn't he, before the pit stops were occurring. but I think he'll be all right. So Chris moves up into 4th, Huggen moves up into 5th. Where is Beeben in relation to Thomas, though? Is he able to stay ahead? He is. Just about. You can see the that onslaught right behind, chasing him down, but he's got about 2 seconds clear. Has Beeben a 1.5 seconds clear, and that is a good strategy there from Timothy Beeben. He left it out as long as he could. He had faith in his own pace, and the driver who was up in 2nd place earlier on before a spin recovers back up into 6th place. That he'll get any further up than that, but he thankfully avoids that big 4-car pass behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, how about the cheeky 3rd position there? Scott Sislowski, we kind of wrote him off earlier on thinking he might not be in with a shot there. He's brought the Trak Esports car now up into 3rd position following his 2nd stop tonight. So really quick work there for that team and driver to get that car through. He's got Martin Crisp just behind. He's not too far off the back of Craig Edwards. So really good run there for Sislowski now, currently sitting in 3rd. But not sure what's happened to Chris, whether he had a bit of a bobble or an issue, because the gap between himself and Craig Edwards really blew out a bit over 9 seconds at this point in time. So I don't know whether Chris has had a little bit of an off-track excursion or not, but there wasn't much separating either of those 2 drivers earlier on following the pit stops, but a very big gap opened up between them now.
Yeah, I think with that long pit stop for Chris, with it taking an extra 6 seconds, I think the gap was at about 7 seconds after the pit stops. But since then, Chris hasn't been able to keep up that pace, as you say. And yeah, that gap opening up to nearly 10 seconds. Here comes Upwards. He's up into 8th. He's past Nicholson. Hard-earned move that for Nathan Hupperts in this recovery drive. Should have been on the podium. But he's up into 8th, and now he can go after Trent Thomas, who does seem to be faster than Hupperts, really fast in his closing stages. Has got quite old tyres, just as old tyres as everyone else. Hasn't got an advantage in that regard. Oh, that's a lovely turn, isn't it? The C8 in the rev limiter. And Hupperts clear. He's up into 8th position. Yeah, Trent Thomas just in front of him. Interesting that Sislowski, of course, got ahead of Crisp, and that's how long Crisp's pit stop was. And yes, Sislowski managing to have a much quicker pit stop and getting that overcut done on him. So we've got a Trak Esports 1-3. XRC having a good run of it, to be fair, with Tom Huggen, of course, under the radar in 5th place. They're running in 4th and 5th. And then Mac 1 with a 6th place for Beeben. And then you have to go back to Jesse Butler in 19th. Of course, Butler was running up in the top 10 for much of this race. Hupperts, he's like I keep on saying, he's quick. He's chasing after Trent Thomas, former race winner, of course, this season, Trent Thomas. Won back at, oh dear, I can't remember which race he won, but he did win a race. I can guarantee you that. What's that, Scott? Maybe in Indiana. I thought Rizzo won Indy, but I'm not sure. We'll have to look back in the archives for that one. Yeah, so Hupper's catching up to him. Just it's testament to his pace, and of course Janssen as well with the fresh tyres, sitting behind these guys in 10th place.
Yeah, we saw Nathan Hupperts go down the outside there of Nicholson. I thought Janssen might have cheekily stuck the nose in through turn 2 to see whether he could have exploited that gap, but Nicholson just awake to the opportunity there, so he's was able to plug that pretty quickly, and this now is going to present a pretty interesting opportunity here for Janssen to see where he can get that Porsche a little bit quicker and utilise the little extra weight maybe to get some better traction. But this could be a good opportunity down Lukey Heights here. He closes right up, but just starting to struggle, and I wonder whether he now, with those quick laps we saw early on, with those tyres, just starting to struggle a little bit more at this point. See Hupperts there with the cheeky flash of the lights, just letting Trent Thomas know that he's coming as he works his way through that final corner. It's a good run for all these guys, nothing separating them as far as lap time is concerned at the moment.
I don't think there's any need to cut to it, but Jason Benz having another spin out there. He's down into 17th, so Benz with at least 3 spins tonight, having a tough time of it. It was bad news there for Janssen, wasn't it, down the pit straight, because I think if Nicholson didn't have the draft from the car ahead, then he could probably pull alongside, but it's kind of like a draft train at the moment, and when the driver ahead of you is only a little bit slower, then you cannot make that overtake. But Huppert's looking confident at the moment. And Thomas, who would be delighted with 7th place, I think, with Trent, started in 7th place. But had an issue earlier on. I can't even recall what the issue was, to be honest, with Trent Thomas, but fell back down to 15th when the pit stops occurred. But he's pretty much maximised this race. I don't think he can really regret anything from this race, Trent Thomas, but if he could get a 7th place, that would be a very good effort. Of course, would help out Trak Esports as well, because your top 3 drivers score points in this race. And seeing that Trak Esports have only had 2 drivers on track on occasion, I believe, and usually field less drivers than Fusion, I believe. They are in 2nd place in that championship, so they do need to try to rack up those points if they possibly can for that team's championship. And they are currently doing a good job at that. Martin Silvassi currently in 20th position. He's another Trak Esports driver himself.
Yeah, and really starting to come to grips now with the C8. I think we saw last season he was running in the Porsche there as well, so a bit of a change of car for him and getting on top of it. He's got Jesse Butler, who we've already seen have a couple of incidents down into turn 2. The key hole there, let's see whether this maybe presents another one, but Butler right up on the back there of Paul Warwick as the guys flash across the start-finish line for another lap and tries to move down the outside. I don't think it's quite close enough to get that one pulled off, but the straight line advantage in those Porsches really, really good at the moment compared to the C8, but Silvassi closes right up through turn 2 in the mid-corner, loses a little bit on the exit, however.
Barnes has headed off the track. It looks as though it's going to be another issue at turn 2. Oh, yeah, just flipping a wheel on. I see drivers being punished for such mistakes. None of this tarmac runoff, although it is a good sign that many of these big circuits, Spa, probably most notable, are returning on the most part to gravel traps rather than tarmac runoffs. It should make track climbs less of an issue in the future, one would hope, at least. Some interesting changes actually to Spa. No name corner being changed a little bit, and never know, might see a rescan of that in a few years' time when they get all those changes sorted, seeing that that scan is already about a decade old, of course. So they will just about force another lap. We've got 20 seconds to go, and he could slow down and make this the checker flag, but I think he'll have one more tour before he is home and dry.
Yeah, looking very, very comfortable. Got himself a nice margin at the moment, 12.5 seconds. Just gets it across the line to start that final lap. So it's a very quick time. The last 2 sub 25-second laps, and that was actually his best of the night at 24.94. So really, really good. Jesse Butler with a big look up the inside of Nicholson down through turn 11. And we'll see whether he can get a run. Trent Thomas has made that Trak Esports BMW the widest thing out there, which is pretty hard to say given how big that car already is, but he is keeping it as wide as possible, really not allowing Hupperts to get a good run on it.
Yeah, brilliant job from Trent Thomas. Oh, he might be under pressure here. Just no, obviously not braking into that turn one. Maybe he dabbed the brakes, but mainly just lifting off, and then a bit more brake pressure into turn 2. Around that corner. Surely this is the last opportunity if Huppers is going to take 7th place home on the brakes into the hairpin. If anything, he's going to have to be careful from just behind. They're all depending on one another. And looks like there's going to be no changes up there. No changes out to the lead. He's pretty much been leading for the entire race. We had Janssen lead for a bit, but that was only due to stat sheet. Rizzo has dominated. He took pole position. He's led effectively every lap, and he takes another race victory, and he takes another step towards the championship. Rizzo wins at Phillip Island. Edwards will be a solid 2nd place. Had to work hard for it. Had some good competition, but ends up in 2nd place, but a while back from the Ford driver. And Szyslowski with an awesome drive. Hasn't scored too many podiums so far this season, Scott Szyslowski, But it's another strong performance for Trak Esports, finishing in 3rd place. Crisp with an awesome 4th, top of the amateur drivers. Hagen, top of the pro drivers, in 5th. It'll be Theben in 6th, and Thomas holds up Huppert, Nicholson, and Janssen to the
Huppert's
line.
got him.
In fact, did Huppert get past him? What was happened there? Did he run out of fuel? Why on earth was Thomas so slow across the line? And Huppert takes home 7th place according to our screens, right at the finish. How about that?
Wow, what a way to finish off the run. That's an awesome job there from Huppets to come back after that earlier incident. Unfortunate there for Trent Thomas. I think that 1 lap extra just left him looking for a little bit of fuel to finish off the race. As we see Sebastian Butler now get across the line to finish their run, but really unfortunate there for Trent. He'll drop just the 1 spot, fortunately for him, finds himself now in the 8th spot.
We need a replay of that one, I think. That was incredible. I thought it was all over, and then all of a sudden he absolutely gets him on the line. Here we go. Thanks to Scott Newton for fighting this one. Yeah, so there is Huppers. He's actually stopped out on 2nd because he's done. Are you able to see this one, Daniel? I can't.
No, I'm not getting enough, unfortunately, mate.
Yeah, just oh, here we go. We might be able to get it. So this is a little bit dry, but this will still be interesting to watch this final lap. See if there's any lifting and coasting maybe from Trent Thomas just ahead as they race through this section. By the way, Paul Roy won the rookie category. Only beat Christopher Hughes by about a 2nd in the end. Both of them having troubles along the way. Maybe Hughes with an issue. I think he had a drive through early on, but the safety car kind of negating that in the end. So here it was for Thomas, and this is going to be painful to watch. I think he felt as though he had enough fuel, puts his foot down. So was it a slide? It could have been a slide coming out of the final corner potentially, or maybe it was just fluttering across. Let's listen out to it.
Oh, there she goes. The fuel's just gone out on him right at that last corner.
You know what? It was actually closer to Nicholson, so Nicholson only lost out to him by 0.04 of a second. Thomas in the end 0.2 behind Huppert, and Nicholson getting within 0.04, but the line coming up close enough. So I don't think Thomas can feel too sorry for himself there. Just fluttering across the line. Still a good effort though from him and the Trak Esports drivers. So we should be able to take you through your final order then for this round of the Trak Racer GT series, and it will be Ross Rizzo taking the race win once again. That's 4 or 5 race wins, I believe counts. Rizzo with another race win, and because it keeps up Trak Esports 100% record so far this season. I think that's 3 in the trot as well for Rizzo, maybe even 4 in the trot. Absolute mad performance right now from the number 1 driver over at that team, the 978, with another race win. Craig Edwards finishes in 2nd place. Scott Soslowski with a brilliant 3rd place. Then it was Martin Crisp, Tom Huggan, Timothy Theben, although Theben will be frustrated that he spun out from 2nd place, of course. Nathan Harpers was in 7th. Then it was Trent Thomas, Simon Nicholson, Steve Janssen, Michael Whiting was top of the amateur drivers. Congratulations to him. Chris Pellet, Dale Braid, Miles Burgess, Chris Barnes, Jesse Butler, Martin Silvassi, and Paul Warwick was top of the rookie drivers on the lead lap as well. Very impressive. Then it was Christopher Hughes, Jason Bentz, Chris Whitesall, Kobe Laszlo, Nicholas Garoich, Hayden Smith, Ben Dow, John Puce, Michael Healy, Adam Gardner, Jordan Pruden, Jeremy Clark, Aaron Specchier, Bradley Sanders, Max Habit, Logan Barnett, Brady McKee, Brett Hender, and Mitchell Bales. Bales, I don't think even took the start, so doesn't even deserve his name to be read out. Brett Hender as well, I'm not sure if he took the start, maybe he retired on the opening lap of the race. So we will have a chat with our top 3 drivers, and well, first up, have a chat with our race winner, Ross Rizzo. Congratulations, Ross. Mr. Qualifying. All of a sudden, it's another pole position. Congratulations, you're making a habit of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been very proud of my race pace compared to the qualifying pace, but yeah, something's clicked in the last season and a bit. So, hey, having having a lot more fun in qualifying, I guess. But it's typically something I don't look forward to. But yeah, was really pleased with the qualifying result today.
In the early stages, you were under a lot of pressure from Michael Healy, who unfortunately fell away later on in the event. What was the pace comparison with you two guys? Do you think he actually had the pace advantage? Because he had the advantage in the last enduro, of course, at Barber. Was it the same story, or were you just managing it out in front?
We actually didn't know, and we were really excited about how the race was going to play out. I knew the Ford. I knew the Ford was so good in race pace that the only thing that was going to keep up with it was Porsche. And Heels being the fastest Porsche, we were really excited about the prospect starting 1-2 and seeing if we could break away from the field and have a good old fashioned battle. But fortunately, it wasn't to be. I looked at the incident. Yeah, it doesn't look good, but I mean, Heels is definitely better than that. And yeah, he deserved a good result today. And apologies to those involved in that, because that was a very heated exchange. I think, almost unnecessarily trying to get back to our rightful positions at that point of the race.
Yeah, of course, that pit stop kind of mixed things up. You guys at Trak Esports always get the strategy spots on, and that seemed to be the right way to go, taking the tyres. Was it an issue at the end of the race with the tyres? Because your lap times just seemed to get better and better. I was anticipating the tyres really to fall off by the end, but you seemed fine.
Well, the tyre wear was only 70% on the worst tyre, and like I said, the Ford's race pace has just been stupid this week. It's had really good tyre wear, so taking the tyres under strategy almost guaranteed that it was going to be myself and Heels out front, because I don't know what the Corvette's like on tyres. We knew the Beamer had nothing this week. So I knew that definitely played into my advantage. So I knew taking tyres was absolutely 100% the right option. And when everyone else followed suit, I was ecstatic. I knew it was going to be good to go from there. It's just a case of keeping Heels at bay, which we saw what happened.
Yeah, exactly. We are heading into the final stretch of the season. Your consistency so far this season has been immense. I think you've only finished off the podium once, I think, and even then you finished like 5th, and you've won 4 or 5 races now this season. Are you going to start changing your mindset into these final few races in order to protect this championship lead? Because really, you could probably finish 10th place in every round to the end of the season and win the championship. You don't need to do a whole lot more.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I've still got my drop round in my back pocket, and basically you put together a good championship by the avoidance of bad results. So keeping top 5, top 10, which I know I can do. It looks like I should be able to do that, but I think I won't change the mindset too much. I mean, obviously what I'm doing is working. I like winning races from race pace for a change, so I'm enjoying that feeling. I love chatting to you at the moment, so it's been good. So nothing will change much in the mindset department.
Awesome.
Well, congratulations out there, Ross, on another race win. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
So thank you to Trak Esports, Trak Custom Fabrications, and Pro Sim Gear, and to AMF and our series sponsors, Akuta and Track Racer and RMS.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Ross, and best of luck next week.
All right, thanks very much.
Ross Rizzo there for Trak Esports, your race winner and your championship leader. We have got Craig Edwards standing by with Daniel right now.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Craig, congratulations on another great result for yourself and the teammate, coming home second tonight. Talk us through earlier on in the race. We saw both yourself and Nathan qualified 3rd and 4th respectively on the grid. How are you feeling with the pace to see out there early on?
Yeah, it was good. I thought we were Nathan and I were getting the most out of the car, hanging on to Michael and Ross at the start there, but once we lost the tow, the Corvette just doesn't want to come out of Siberia or the Southern Loop quick enough to hang on. So we're just watching them slowly drip away. I was happy to hang on to 3rd, and then got a little bit spicy after that safety car restart. managed to pick my way through safely, and after that it was just trying to hang on. I ended up under attack for a lot of that second stint until I pitted, but somehow once I pitted I came out just all by myself in second all the way to the flag, so happy with that.
Yeah, well, let's go back to the pace car or the safety car. We thought we might have seen a couple more tonight. We only saw the one, thankfully. When that came out, everyone sort of a little bit out of sync. We saw a few guys not taking tyres, some guys that had pitted very early on, jumping up the order from some incidents. For yourself, Nathan, and obviously we had a few more guys involved in it later on. What was your take as we saw that big incident down in towards turn one there?
Yeah, we knew that the best advantage is just to top everything off, take tyres. Done many endurance races now over the last 3 seasons where that seems to be the winning strategy. So off we went, did that, and we were sitting pretty. Anyone who doesn't take tyres, though, there's such a big difference now in the GTE tyre between a fresh and an old. So there often ends up being a lot of cars tripping over each other, and we saw that again tonight.
Yeah, and then later on, following all that, you found yourself in a really good battle with Martin Chris. You managed to get one up the inside of you down through turn 4, and then ultimately when the pit stops came back through, you were able to re-get ahead. But all in all, looks like some really solid racing that you found yourself in. For the long run, how did you find the C8? Obviously had a little bit of weight thrown on board it this week, 15 kilos advantage. Did you find that was really making the tyres wear a little bit easy or more over the course of those longer stints?
The tyres were actually fine. They hung on brilliantly, except for that first little drop-off you get in GT nowadays, where you've got this amazing purple sector setting tyre, and then it's 2 seconds a lap slower. But it never goes any more than 2 seconds. It just hangs in, which was really good. The issue was the weight on the car, along with the fuel in the car, adding additional weight. It wouldn't put its power down. It wasn't until probably the last 10 minutes of the race that I really felt like I was getting really good drive traction out of the slower corners and setting some nice times. I think I set my fastest lap with 3 to go. So it really didn't come alive right until the end.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, next week, obviously, we're off to Twin Ring Matagi, a track that has, again, a few very slow technical corners. I know everyone's probably going to be eagerly awaiting to see what the BOP is going to bring for that event. How do you think your chances are going there? First off, have you done a lot of laps around the circuit and do you enjoy it? And then, obviously, where the C8's at the moment, how do you think that car's likely to fare around there?
I like Motegi, but I'm worried about how it's going to go in the C8. Like you said, a few slow corners, and it seems to be one of the weaknesses of this car. So I'd say it might end up being quite similar to this week in terms of how the BOP and cars are apportioned. But yeah, it's until we get there, you're never going to know for sure. But hopefully I'll be fighting for the podium once again.
Fantastic, mate. Well, look, we wish you all the best. Great to see you back up on the podium again. We thought we might have got a chance to chat with you last week, but unfortunately some issues got in the way of that one. But yourself and Nathan really seem to have started to get to grips with this car, and it's a welcome return to form for both yourself and the Fusion Sim Racing team. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yep, no worries. Big thanks to my team, Fusion Sim Racing, and our wonderful sponsors, simrigs.com, Psychonic Solutions, Eclipse Signage, and Daryl Carter Plastering.
Fantastic, mate. And again, congratulations on second place on the podium tonight.
Thanks very much, Daniel.
Craig Edwards there, your second place finisher tonight. We're now going to have a chat with Scott Zyslowski. He's in the commentary box with us for Trak Esports. Congratulations, Scott. I can't recall you being on the podium so far this season. Feel free to correct me on that front, but this is certainly one of your best results of the championship.
Yeah, no, first podium certainly this season. Just been sort of running it part time. Just life and a couple of little niggly injuries kept me out of the sim for a lot of this season. But just jumped back in last round and this to support the Trak Esports team trying to hold on to the team's championship. So the P3 today is a good step towards that.
Definitely. I mean, talk us through your race. You qualified a little bit higher than you usually do, up in a 10th position, and then you kind of just under the radar seemed to gain a lot of places. I mean, yeah, talk us through your race.
Yeah, starting in about P10 was probably about where my pace was, but my strength is always in race pace, race trim, rather than in outright quali speed. So just focused on setting consistent times in the Corvette. Still trying to get my head around how that car behaves, and yeah, sort of just set some pretty consistent times. The safety car fell at what was probably not the ideal time, but worked out in my favour, and had a few incidents up ahead that I could avoid and take advantage of, but sort of just played out nicely to the last fuel stop, and had a gap, and all I had to do was just maintain it. So that was the story of my race. It sort of fell in my lap a little bit.
We saw a lot of drivers, some very good drivers, actually. I mean, you would have seen probably yourself driving past Timothy Theben at one point. A few drivers like make mistakes around this track. You seem to be error-free. I mean, did you come close to any spins or any offs out there?
Always close to spins when you're pushing hard, but no, nothing major. Thankfully, that's the key with these longer races. Is if you can stay out of trouble and dodge the shenanigans and stay on the black stuff, you usually make up places with some solid race pace. So that's always my goal, and it's worked nicely tonight.
We've got one more endurance round to go. It is, oh dear. Well, it's a circuit that I dislike quite a bit. It's Motegi, and worst of all, it's at night, so the broadcast is going to look terrible for that. But whilst I may not like it, are you a fan of that circuit? When was the last time you visited there?
It's actually one of those tracks that I really, really hate, but for whatever reason I've done quite well at. I can't really put my finger on why. But yeah, I just don't really like the flow of it. But the couple of boys in Trick really enjoy it, so hopefully they can give me some tips on how to drive it, and hopefully I'll be talking to you again next week.
Yeah, certainly hope so. Scott, is there anyone you'd like to give any thanks to?
Just the normal team sponsors, Trick Custom Fabrications and Pro Sim Gear, and all the Trick boys who were supporting each other through the race and helping each other out with strategy, and good bunch of blokes to race with. So thanks to them.
Awesome. Thanks for having a chat with us, Scott, and hopefully see you back next week.
Cheers, boy.
Scott Zaslowski there for Trick Esports, your third place finisher. Daniel, so next up we've got Motegi. I dislike Motegi personally. I don't know what your opinion is. I'm not a fan of night races either. I just think it looks quite bad on our broadcast. We need all the help we can get. So when we can't see the cars, then that's really not a whole lot of assistance for us. But it is not a circuit we visit regularly, and maybe we'll see a bit of a mix-up in the order because it's a strange circuit, and if you have got some experience in these cars around that track, you could hold quite an advantage over the rest.
Yeah, I'm a little on the fence about the circuit. Like, it is enjoyable to a certain extent, mostly during the day. I would tend to agree with you as far as the night's concerned. There's not a lot of track lighting around, which in its own right is going to make it very tricky for these drivers to get the most out of these cars. Obviously know where the track limits are, and as we've seen today, the minute you get out on the grass there, you're off in the weeds. So it's going to present its own set of unique challenges that these guys are going to have to get around. Some very long straights, a lot of point and shoot, where the guys are going to need to try and maintain the forward momentum and the drive out of those corners. So it'll be an interesting one to see. I probably echo the sentiments of Craig there with the C8 probably going to struggle a little bit on the traction down and power out to make the most of it. But it'll be interesting to see how everyone goes. Obviously, that final complex of corners from turn 11, we have a big downhill through 12, 13. The pit entry is going to be really interesting to see how the guys manage getting through there. And that final little sharp right-hander, turn 14 there, be interesting to see whether we get any passing opportunities or how the guys are able to play into it. But it is getting towards the pointy end of the season, the final endurance event for this season. And then after that, only 3 more weeks to go until we crown our new champion.
Yeah, of course. We've had Rizzo win all 3 endurance, haven't we? I mean, there's no point in him turning up next week, is there? There's no point, because even if he wins, still only 3 of them will be counted. If he doesn't turn up, then he'll still get the 3 wins. I mean, you drop one of your 4 endurance meetings, so don't turn up for us. Give someone else a chance for once. That'd be nice. Anyway, it would be nice to see him back too next week. I'm sure he will be back next week, because he will want to keep up this good momentum, because it is another race victory in this round 8 of the championship. I believe that is now 5 race wins that he has accumulated. And then I think Trent Thomas with a race win, and maybe Healy with a couple of race wins as well. But it's been a phenomenal run of form for him. I think he's won 4 on the trot. So certainly is the man to beat at the moment. And it will be tricky to take him off his perch anytime soon, I am sure. Of course, you may have noticed that this race has been broadcasted on the iRacing Esports Network. The iRacing Esports Network isn't going to be a thing soon. So if you want to continue watching some high quality sim racing broadcasts, subscribe to Apex Racing TV. We are the place to go. Don't go to any of the other broadcasters, because we have the best races, we have the best commentators, the best graphics. We're just the best at everything. And so subscribe to Apex Racing TV, leave a like on this video, and also check out our social media as well on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, of course, as well. So certainly do check out all of that stuff. We will see you back next week then for the next round of the Track Racer GT series at Motegi at night. We'll see if Rizzo can make it 4 out of 4 in these Enduros and make it 6 race victories on the trot as well. So from me, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Daniel Leet, and from Scott Newton, we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you back next week.